The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good morning. One of my favorite cities in the world, Atlanta, Georgia. Good morning to all the people in the Georgia area, because we thought it was just going to be in the Atlanta area, but we are getting emails from all over Georgia of people who are now watching the show, which we kind of knew when we went to TV and podcasts, but we are just so happy to have all of our viewers and listeners. Today's show is brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta. They specialize in selling your business. Contact them today to set up an appointment by calling Sunbelt Business Brokers Atlanta at 770-936-9099. Today's show, we have a lot of homeowners and business owners, which makes today's show really important. We're going to be talking about foundation repair. And you know what? Maybe if you don't own a home, maybe your parents do, relatives or friends, and they have been having some situations with their houses. We might have an answer for those today. We have, I think, one of the top foundation repair companies, not just in Georgia, but throughout the country, because everywhere we have a show, this company name comes up, and it's Permajack. Permajack, and they are not only does our franchisee have the Georgia area, also has Louisiana and I believe Mississippi and Missouri, but we'll have to ask him. Let me welcome you to a gentleman who's become a really good friend of the show, Bobby Clanton. Good morning, Bobby.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Now, you have franchises in other states besides Georgia.
Yeah, we have Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, and the Panhandle of Florida.
Well, you've got a big job you're doing in the Panhandle in Fort Walton, and thank you for sharing that with us. But we're going to talk today about foundation repair. And, you know, someone who's owned a home, Bobby, for the first time, they just bought a home, they really need to listen today and get an education, because foundation repair, if it's not taken care of, it could cost you a lot of money in the long run. So tell people about your company, Permajack.
Well, Permajack specializes in all types of structural repair on homes and commercial. We have a driven steel pier system that was patented in the early 70s. And anyway, we cover 4 or 5 states, 6 states with that, all types of settling where you have cracks that appear in your foundation, windows sticking, doors sticking, those are the kind of things that homeowners should look for. But yeah, we do that. Plus we do all types of other structural repair. This would be where maybe somebody buys a house and maybe it's an older house with a different kind of a floor plan, and they might want to open it up and make it bigger. The open seems to be the trend now. And where we have to install structural beams in the ceiling to remove load-bearing walls. Those are the kind of things we do. We only do structural repair, either underpinning or that type work. We don't do any kind of, cosmetic work like sheetrock, masonry, or any of that kind of thing.
Well, there are a lot of new homeowners out there who've never experienced owning their own home, and foundation repair is so important. And that's what we're here to do. We want to educate you, bring you who I think is the top company in all of Georgia, actually, the United States, because Permajack has such a big name. You've been in business forever. I think you've been in business for 400 years, Bobby.
Yeah, something like that. I feel every year. Yeah.
Bobby feels that way.
Yeah, probably around between 35 and 40 years. Been in Atlanta since 1984. So, yeah, we've been around a long time. Two of my sons work for me, so we have some longevity here. And so it's good. We are probably, at this point, probably carrying about 10,000 warranties.
Wow.
And so we offer a lifetime warranty against any vertical movement. But we have a callback rate of less than half of 1% a year over the last 15 or 20 years. So I don't. I mean, it is. It's a reliable system. It is permanent. It is adjustable if you have an issue, which some of these systems are not. But it was designed specifically for underpinning footings and foundations that are settling and so forth. It doesn't really have any other use, so it's very specific as far as its utilization.
Bobby, what's the most asked question related to foundation repair?
Well, the first thing that people see is, usually they see uneven doors. Unlevel floors, uneven doors that don't close and stick, and windows that are sticking, those kind of things. But one of the first things, and this usually happens in the springtime when people start getting out more and walking around their house, they'll see cracks in their masonry or in their concrete, those kind of things. But usually it starts with some sticking and some indications on the inside of the house. It could be that when you open a door, it doesn't stand still, it swings. That means it's probably been a drop in the floor. Cabinet doors that don't quite fit. You could see cracks in your countertops, especially in the granite and that kind of thing. So it's a good many signs, but that's usually, and people will call and they'll ask if that's an indication of a foundation problem. Of course, our estimates are free, so we're glad to go out and take a look at it. But that's usually what they call asking about. And to be honest with you, sometimes, with this current technology that we didn't have back in the 80s, they can now, if something bothers them severely, and it's going to be a few days before we get to it, they can do a video of it, or they can do a FaceTime, whatever we call it, FaceTime. I had two customers call, actually, one last night at 7:30, and they said, "Is there any way I can do this? I want to buy this house." But and I said, "Well, you'll have to." It was still daylight, so I said, "You have to walk around the areas that you think are a problem." So that's very convenient, and generally, we can look at it and give them a price that's fairly close. If it's not going to be close, or there could be an increase, we'll tell them. But that's kind of a benefit. But those are the things that they normally call about.
It's really a good idea if someone is buying a house that they hire you to come out and look at the foundation, because if it's not taken care of, Bobby, isn't it going to be really expensive in the long run?
Well, foundation repair is not inexpensive. It costs because it's so specialized. A lot of people, when they buy houses, they generally look at things like paint colors and countertops and things like that. And because generally, of course, almost all the time, the foundations are covered up. And, and homeowners, home buyers, they're not foundation experts, so they don't really know what a footing looks like. They don't know what to look for. And there's nothing wrong with that. The ones of us that are specialists at this, we would look at different things than they would. So no, it's very expensive. Well, very expensive. It's value added, of course, but it's not cheap. And it's more expensive than painting 4 rooms, I can say.
Yes. I just got a text message right before the show, someone wanting to know if there is a crack in their driveway, could that mean they have foundation problems?
No, we don't deal with those kind of problems. They're thin sections, and most of these driveways, it's amazing, but you'll pay $500,000 or $600,000 for a house, and they'll pull driveways with no reinforcing in it. So we don't deal with that. Actually, the pier system is too expensive to use on something like that. But no, that doesn't mean they have a foundation problem. That means they've got a driveway problem, and probably they poured it with no reinforcing in it.
Bobby, is when you come in on a job, are we talking about days or weeks?
It's usually
to repair
days.
the problem?
An average repair would probably take 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
If I take the average price of the quotes and the ones that we sell, I would say the average is somewhere between 3 and 5 days. Now, we have some that are much more severe, and they may take a week to 2 weeks to do it, but that would be a very severe repair. This is very clean. It's not destructive. We dig a small hole. There's no large equipment. All the equipment used to install this system are carried by 2 men. We dig the hose by hand normally, and we put everything back. It's clean. It's quick and very quiet. We can also go on the inside. That's a little more destructive, but we're one of the few that would do that. So yeah.
Does the homeowner have to leave the house for those 3 to 5 days?
No. When we lift the foundation back up to try to get it as level as possible, we ask that somebody be there that day, so that when we lift it and we show them that it's level or as close to level as we can get it, and then we close all the hose back up, clean up, and and we're done with it.
Do you have to disclose to a buyer that you have foundation repair problems on your home?
Most of these lending disclosure statements require that you respond to that question. And I would suggest, that anybody selling their house, you need to be honest with the buyer, because otherwise that can come back to bite you. And in most of the southern states, you're responsible for what we call latent structural defects. You're responsible to disclose that, and you can be responsible for 7 to 10 years if you don't tell them. Excuse me.
I would think you'd want to tell them.
Yeah.
And, again, for those people who don't know if they have any kind of foundation problems, they can contact you and set up an appointment for you to come out and look at their house.
Right. Our estimates are free if you own the house. Now, some buyers call. If a buyer calls and they don't own the house, there's a $300 charge for that, with a letter just stating our opinion on it. If the person owns a house, there's no charge for that. But you have 2 general approaches to this. Sometimes the seller wants to sell the house as is. We don't suggest that with our price, because if a price is $10,000, generally a buyer, since they are not familiar with the problem, they will want you to probably double that as far as a credit off of the price. So we suggest that if people can do it and they're going to sell it, is to go ahead and repair it, because that way, when that is disclosed on the disclosure statement, they can say there was an issue, it was repaired, they put our name on there, and then and say that it has a transferable warranty. That's the best way to handle that, both for the seller and the buyer, because once the seller discloses that, then they have no responsibility after the purchase.
Can you go into more detail about your warranty program?
The warranty is a limited lifetime. It's limited to the area that we work in. If you say face in front of the house, we fix the left side. The warranty is on the left side wherever we do the repair. The warranty is against vertical movement. It is not a material workmanship warranty. Material workmanship warranties are standard. They're standard warranties in most cases for different things, not just foundation repair. But generally, for you to make a call on that warranty, you have to prove there was a defect in the material and workmanship, and before anybody carries it. Most of the other companies with other systems, that's the kind of warranty they have. In our case, it's just vertical movement. You get a drawing with the repaired area outlined in red, and if anything settles during that area based on the warranty, then we repair it at no cost to them. They don't have to prove there was any kind of defect. That's very important, because if you don't do that, I mean, people, they don't understand this business, and that's understandable because it's very unique. But you have to be careful about that.
Bobby, what made you get into this business?
I don't know. I'm wondering that myself.
Still, after all these years, you're still wondering?
Well, this business started in Jackson, Mississippi. That's where our office was. Our home office is located in North Mississippi now, but we have a problem. Probably 60 or 70% of the houses in those 3 counties around Jackson have something called Yazoo clay. And it's 60 to 70% of those houses either have a problem, have had one, or will have one. Wow. That percentage is lower in a place like Atlanta because the soil is good in Atlanta and Birmingham, places like that. But that's where we started, because the pool of customers there was quite large. So the business has slowed down a little bit there because we fixed most everything. So not everything, but we fixed a lot of it, and there's very few callbacks on that. So we don't get any, how would you say, you don't get recurring business off that unless it's another part of the house.
Bobby, can you transfer the warranty, like if you sell your house?
It's transferable to our owner if we are notified within 60 days of the title transfer, and there's no charge for that. The new owners have to sign the same documents as the existing owner with an updated date, but that's all it is to it.
Do you ever have to install piers on the inside of a home?
We do. If your house is on a slab or a conventional, it doesn't matter. If it's a conventional and you have some of the same issues, that's sticking doors, unlevel floors, that kind of thing, it's probably related to the support piers under the house that have moved. Yes, we do that, and we do it also on slabs. There's a little more of disruption to that, but it's not, we have a system for doing that. Everything's covered in plastic. We go in and try to put those in first and get out quickly, clean up and be done. I can't think of any issue we've ever had with that that was major. So yeah, you can go inside or outside.
And can you lift, let's say, a 2-story house back to its original location?
Yes.
Okay.
It's all a function of the number of piers. I mean, 2 stories are heavier, and so the piers have to be spaced closer together. The single stories can be spaced further apart. So it's just a matter of a function of the piers. The piers are the piers will pick up 12 to 15 tons each. So when you combine them together and hook all of the cylinders together, when you raise and you get a combined lift. So in most cases, we can get it back up to reasonably level as far as where it was originally.
Bobby, have you ever seen a damage that was so bad it couldn't be repaired?
No, not far as we're concerned. I've fixed a number of things where the other companies have looked at it and just told them to push the house down. So that's not quite a solution, especially for the value and what you've got invested in your home. So they are more expensive, but so far I have not had. I actually repaired one in Atlanta last year that the slab had a 3-foot void under it. It was like a tunnel. They had buried trash when they developed the lots. They buried the trash under the house, covered it back over, and then when the site contractor was gone, the people who were building the house had no idea they were building the house over a trash pit. So trash pits we repair a lot of trash pit damage in Atlanta. It's a long ways to haul trash in Atlanta, and the developers don't want to haul it, and so if they can, they find a way to bury it on the site.
I got you. Yeah. What about a fireplace? Is that difficult to move?
No, we just generally, the way those things go, we rotate them back into place. We've had some that were leaning 3 or 4 inches at the top because they tend to rotate in a counterclockwise motion, and normally they take 4 or 5 piers, but generally, unless they're not massive, we can raise them back up and close up those gaps.
And what about if a house has like crawl space? Can foundation repair be done?
Yes, if it's accessible, we've done a lot here lately. That we have what we call a modified pier, which can be put in from the bottom side, and we've done a lot of those lately, especially in Atlanta. We see what's happening in Atlanta right now is that the housing, at least close to downtown Atlanta, is so limited that a lot of these houses that weren't sellable before, the investors are coming in and buying them, and they're fixing them because they can turn around and sell them for full price. So a lot of what we've gotten in the last 6 months has been that kind of repair.
Well, Bobby, I tell you, your show goes by so fast. Let's first of all, for the people who are listening on radio, let's give everybody your phone number.
The Atlanta number is 404-365-8339. It's at 404-365-8339.
And usually, how long does it take you to get out once someone contacts you? How long does it usually take to get out to look at their house?
Our book rate right now is only about a week. I mean,
okay, that's not bad at all.
In some cases, depending on when they call, if we've got a call schedule that we're working in Atlanta, then if they call in that same day, we generally can work them in the same day. But I would say 3 days to 5 days, probably maximum.
Okay, Bobby, thank you so much for jumping on with us today. Bobby will be back with us again next month. We are actually adding another hour to the show. So we will I'll let everybody know. But Bobby, thank you so much. And we'll see you again next month.
Well, thank you. And you have a good day. And
you too, buddy. Tell Kathy hello for us.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That was Bobby Clinton. Unbelievable. This who would think about going into foundation repair? But we're so lucky to have him. There's so many homeowners and business owners who listen to our show. So we want to make sure that we cover all bases when it comes to home improvement, and foundation repair is so important. We are now waiting for our next expert. There she is with the beautiful scene behind her.
I'm filming from my office today. Our conference room is being repainted, and I cleaned up a little bit.
Well, let me tell you, today's show is brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta, who specializes in selling your business. Contact them today to set up an appointment by calling Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta, 770-936-9099. If you're thinking about selling your business, Sunbelt I knew Sunbelt before we even got started with them in Atlanta. They're everywhere, and I think that's also important. But today we have Doreen Morgan. She's head of the Atlanta company, and we're going to be talking about selling a service industry business today. And I love the way, Doreen is the only person that sets up each show with a different theme when it comes time to selling a business. Doreen, I love the way you do that. And let's tell everybody about Sunbelt Business Brokers.
Okay. Yeah. Sunbelt Atlanta has been in business here for 24 years here in Atlanta. We are part of Sunbelt Network, which is 123 offices in 8 countries. So we have a local, we are very local to Georgia, but we've got an international reach. In my office, we have 8 professionals, and we cover almost any industry. We do a lot in technology and medical, manufacturing, distribution, franchise resales, and business services. We do a lot in insurance space. In business services, we do a lot of it's probably a huge part of what we do as far as our practice goes. And business services are going to be B2B services and B2C. So it's landscaping, it's insurance companies, it's medical billing, it's anything that provides a service for a business or to a private individual. So home repair, where you just got done talking to the foundation company there.
Yes.
We do a lot in the construction space for sure. So that's a little bit about us. We sell companies Main Street through lower middle market. So we represent companies that transact for 500,000 up to about 75 million.
Well, we're going to be talking about evaluating those type of companies. We're talking about the service industry today. Tell our viewers, Doreen, what does that include? What kind of businesses?
That's going to be landscape companies. It's going to be medical billing. It's going to be anything that provides a service to another business or to a private individual. So auto repair shops will fall in there, landscape companies, any type of home improvement, home repair companies, insurance companies, financial planners are starting to exit out. They're starting to want to sell their practices. We're seeing some of that. So professional practices, any type of business that provides a service to another company or individual.
Well, I could see a landscaper who's built up a nice little business, but doesn't think he could get enough for his business. That's probably not true, is it?
No, that's not true at all. We do a lot in the landscape space for sure. Those are any kind of trade company right now is very, very popular. It used to be that trade industries like landscapers, plumbers, electricians, they would sell primarily. The smaller companies would sell to another private individual. That is happening less and less. It's more difficult to sell those types of businesses to private individuals because, frankly, the next generation coming up really they don't want to get their hands dirty. So really, service industry businesses are very, very lucrative, and so we need to bring trade schools back so that these small businesses can transition, or they're going to go away. But that's a whole different topic for another day.
Yeah, right.
We are seeing more private equity firms. They are seeing real opportunity in these spaces because plumbers, electricians, they are going to be in high demand. We had a water issue in our house 2 weeks ago, and 5 days to get a plumber.
Wow.
We felt comfortable with to come out and do the work. So that is going to continue, and rates are going to go up. And so we are seeing a lot of strategic buying activity. And then, for the first time in the 20 years I've been doing this, we're seeing, private equity firms and family offices take a real interest in rolling up these small type of trade industry companies.
Well, Doreen, how do you value a service industry business?
Like any industry, it's going to fall into the industry category that they're in. So a medical billing practice is going to trade for a much higher multiple than a landscape company would. And so it's anywhere from, a 2.5 times multiple up to, a 6.5 multiple, depending on the type of company it is. Professional service companies, insurance companies, we've sold several insurance companies. Those will trade on a multiple of revenue versus net income, which is unusual. As far as within those industries, within the landscape, home repair sector, trades, there's going to be a range, and that can be typically from a 2 times multiple up to about a 3.5 multiple. And, what makes the difference there with a service industry is the customer base. Is it well diversified? We look at a lot of service-based customers where our companies where the customers, they might have 2 or 3 customers that make up 25, 30, 40% of the business. And those are still very saleable, but the multiple is a little lower. Trucking industry is in particular, we see lots of customer concentration in the trucking industry. So, as you prepare to start to think about selling your business, look at that customer base. Is there a way that you can diversify that? Because that definitely impacts the multiple. And then, the type of revenue that you have coming in. Do you have recurring revenue? Some industries do, some don't. Landscaping is a good one. Lots of recurring revenue. You're typically working for the same clients month after month. So recurring revenue is strong in that space. So if you don't have recurring revenue, is there a way that you can generate recurring revenue? Is there a service that's ancillary to what you're doing now that you could provide that could be a recurring revenue stream if you don't have one now? Another big thing that goes into that swing in that multiple is, are you using independent contractors or are you using W-2 employees? A company that is got full-time employees will trade for a higher multiple than a company that has, a large portion of what they do is outsourced. And then lastly, what can weigh into evaluation for a service-based industry is how you are billing your customers. If you are billing your customers in arrears, meaning that you're performing the work and then sending them the bill, that can impact value, because what happens in those cases is, and landscaping, this is a lot of landscape owners do this. They bill in arrears. And so what that means is they're going out and they're doing the work for their customers. And then sometimes not even billing weekly. They're sitting down, every 2 weeks and sending out bills, or once a month and sending out bills. And what happens there is when they go to sell, the buyer that's coming into the business is going to have a whole lot more working capital than if the owner was billing for the job, as they did it or before they did it. If you can, and it's really, to the customer, it really doesn't notice. There's going to be, that switch. They're paying monthly anyway. But how are you doing that? So if you are billing in arrears, it can be very helpful to switch your customer base to pay in advance. We have a landscape company in market recently that they do bill in arrears. And so what that means for a buyer buying that business is they've got, the customers typically have 30 days to pay. So they're doing the work and then they're being billed for that work, 2 weeks later, and then they've got 30 days to pay it. So a buyer has to come in with 6 weeks worth of operating capital, which is, in this case, it's an additional $250,000. So that can impact the value. And then it also, from a buyer's perspective, can make buyers a little nervous that, if I change the billing structure, am I going to lose clients? So if you are billing in arrears, that might be something that you really want to look at before you go to market. Make that change. Go ahead and switch your customers to pay in advance. It's really, if they're paying $150 every month, 1 month they get a bill for $300 and it's done, and then it's back to normal. And most customers are going to understand that because they, work in business somewhere too, and they get it.
It's funny because we've gotten two, I think, really good text messages who we've given your phone number now and your email address, and it's kind of like what you're talking about. This gentleman wants to know if 80% of his business is factored, is that going to hurt his selling of his company? Meaning, I guess they have a factoring company that pays 80% of their invoice.
Right. Well, when
Does that hurt the sale, Doreen?
No, it won't hurt the sale, and it depends on the industry too, and how large the company is. Because a buyer coming in is going to look at that, and if they don't need to do that, that's helpful. So
yes.
When we look at a company like that, and we're doing our opinion of value, we're going to normalize that. We're going to assume that the new owner coming in is not going to need to factor the invoices. And so all of those fees that seller is paying to be able to have the opportunity to factor those invoices, those fees are dropped right back to the bottom line. And we would do the opinion of value on that business as if he or she was not factoring their invoices. So it really does not and should not impact saleability at all.
We have another person who's actually watching us on TV right now. He owns an Executive Airlines, and he wants to know, is that considered service industry?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a great industry to be in. We recently had a flight school in market, and we had just a tremendous amount of activity. I think we sent out 50 NDAs in the first
Wow.
3 days that we took that to market. Aviation is huge, and executive travel is big, and it's going to, most people look at that industry and they see that executive travel is going to continue to grow. It may be gas prices are a little higher right now and things like that, but commercial airlines, are not as reliable as they used to be. And so people who can do it, will fly charter. Yeah.
Well, he just wrote back again, stating that they lease their planes. And again, would that hurt the sale of the company?
No, that wouldn't hurt the sale of the company, because a lot of people in that industry, they do lease the equipment. And so that equipment is hitting your P&L as an expense, and that's all it would be, is an expense, because the opinion of value is based on earnings. So it doesn't really matter. Now, aviation is different because airplanes do not lose value And especially now they're in demand, and you can sell them for, sometimes I know Cessnas and Pipers and things like that are in high demand right now. I don't
Oh,
know
you
about
got the lingo down.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And my husband's in the aviation industry.
Oh,
He has an aircraft repair shop in Lawrenceville. So
oh,
plug for wingman aircraft repair. But with those, they don't depreciate. So having the equipment can weigh into that. But typically, it's going to be based on cash flow. So it doesn't matter if you've got millions of dollars worth of equipment. It's going to be based on that cash flow number, and that's why a service industry business, you might only actually own desks and computers and a few conference room tables. And you could sell your company for $6 or $10 million, because it's not about the physical assets. It's about what your company's actually generating in net income.
what about right of first refusal? Doesn't the service business have to give the franchisor the right to the buyer of their business before they can take it to market, Doreen?
Okay, with a franchise service industry, and this is a good example of the bigger companies and private equity firms and holding companies that are seeing trade businesses as a the next gold rush kind of a thing. Is you see a lot of landscape franchises now, and heating and air franchising, and you didn't see that before. With the franchise resale, the franchisor does have right of first refusal, but that right of first refusal is technically, they don't have to exercise that until you have a buyer and there's an offer on the table, and then that offer goes to the franchisor and they decide, well, do we want to exercise our right of first refusal? And if they do, then in that case, it's typically spelled out in the FDD that they'll have 45 or 60 days to determine whether or not they want to exercise that right of first refusal. If they do want to exercise that first refusal, they have to at least meet or exceed the offer that's on the table. And that's how I got into this industry, is actually through franchise resales and franchise development. And, in 20 years, I don't think I've ever recall a franchisor actually exercising the right of first refusal. They're interested in getting a new franchisee in there. Most companies don't. They're franchisors and they're not operators.
When's the best time to sell a service industry business? Is it any time during the year? Are there certain parts of the time that are better?
Yeah, the best time to sell a business is when you're ready to sell a business and you're not under, you're not under any stress or distress to sell a business. But you do really want to be cognizant about seasonality, because with a lot of service industry businesses, you do have seasonality, and so it can be good to go to market. You kind of look at and from the time we take a company to market to the closing table, almost like clockwork, is going to be typically between 5 and 7 months. And so, we'll sit down with you and look at, okay, well, when is the best time to really go to market? Is it better to go to market when you get through your busy season, and then we close as you're going into your slow season, so that the buyer you have a really good smooth transition with the buyer? Maybe you're in a complicated industry, or there's some complexity to your company in particular that you're really going to have to take the time to transition that business 6, 8 weeks, 3 months, whatever that case may be. And the best time to do that's during the slow season. Or we look at, okay, well, to get a buyer into this business, a real motivating factor can be that, a floral, wholesale florist, pretty large wholesale florist that we recently closed. There was a real motivation in there for the buyer to get in before Valentine's Day. So, they would reap the rewards of actually having the sales and the net income from one of the biggest days of the year. So, first sell when you're ready to sell and you're not under duress. And before you get bored or tired or, you start taking your foot off the gas. And then the second with the service business is kind of look at seasonality and then we determine the best time. Is the best time to go to market going to be September so that you close before Valentine's Day, or is it going to be, after Christmas so that you are going into a slow time?
Well, I was just thinking, Doreen, that, it's so important to have a company like Sunbelt that is, everything about this business. And I don't know, you know how I feel about a person trying to sell the business themselves. It's just so much cleaner. It's so much easier when you have a company like Sunbelt. And, it's just, I'm so glad that we have you. And I've got about 6 calls waiting right now. If you all want to wait till next week when Doreen's back, you'll be one of the first ones. But Doreen, I just want to thank you so much, because I know there's a lot of people out there thinking about selling their business and they don't know if this is the right time. They're maybe worried about the shock. Maybe their business isn't worth as much as they thought. But with a company like yours and your experience, and we've covered all areas of selling a business, we're just so, here goes another call coming in. We're so lucky to have you. Doreen will be back with us again next week, and she might have a surprise guest for us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hopefully.
Yes, we'll let you know during the week. Doreen, give everybody your phone number before we go.
It's 770-936-9099. Please call. I'm happy to answer your questions off air as well.
You're the best, Doreen.
Oh, you are. Thanks, Steve.
We'll see you next week, Doreen.
Okay.
And today's show has been brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta. It's actually all of Georgia, but we say Atlanta. You can reach them at 770-936-9099. We have them to thank for bringing this show to you. We will see you next week with more Ask the Experts. Everybody have a wonderful and blessed week.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.